Yo, what is up, y'all? I know it's been a long time since you've seen this Core 4 right here, talking about some of the most important stuff going on and some of the most unimportant stuff, but we still gonna talk about it. We aren't gonna let you end 2018 without hearing from us four, so let's get right to it, y'all.
What's with the sassy voice, though? Oh, we still gonna talk about
Oh, it's going down.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yes, King, yes.
We're back, y'all. What's going on, fellas? Been a long time. People haven't seen us in a while here.
It's been a minute. Y'all been flaky.
Ooh, who's y'all?
Like that? Right
Call
on.
them out.
That wasn't even like 12 seconds in, bro. Like that seems like you set up.
It
You know what I'm
is the
saying?
holidays.
Y'all got 20 other group chats and shit.
Ooh, that's
Whoa.
Niggas
you
got
kinda
other
jealous.
podcasts and shit. You know what I'm saying? I feel like Ali been doing a secret podcast on us.
Yeah, it's with you.
Sounds like somebody got some Himalayan salt for Christmas.
What? Why do you sound like the side bitch right now?
I mean, I'm kind of feeling that way.
It kind of feels that way.
It feels like
Your day's coming, 2 more months. February 15th.
Couple of seasons almost over, bro. Just
All right.
Yo, did you say February 15th?
Yep, that's your
The
day.
day after.
Do I need to give you one of these?
No, we good.
yeah, man. No, but a lot of stuff has happened. I mean, we got dudes getting married. I don't even know if this made it to the last episode. Dudes get married, expecting children. All of this stuff has happened. So congratulations, fellas, to all of you who have taken significant steps in your life.
Thank you.
And if you're
Dizzle's
watching,
gonna have a baby soon.
yeah. Oh,
Definitely. Oh yeah, it's happening, bro.
he's gonna be born with the same.
We gotta
Baby's gonna be born with that beard right out the.
we got a cruise to go on in the summer, so we try to
Yeah, we had plans too.
I think one of the most common things that I hear people say is, yeah, nah, we gonna wait because we got these plans. And I'm like, well, I think the way that, how
Life.
children are created, it's not as like simple as a schedule, right? Like you can't, because you can say we're gonna start trying at this time and it might take you longer than you expect, right? And then people go, oh, we're not going to try at all. But then you have one moment of, let's have some fun. And boom, now it changes everything. And all those plans go out the window. So I think it's interesting when I hear people talk about like when they think they're ready for children. I'm like, it happens when you're ready. Like it's just going to happen whether you're ready or not. It's just, it's true.
What do you think the percentage is of people who've actually planned it to people who have not?
Oh, like
I think
planned? Probably like
It's a landslide, I agree.
25.
I think it's defined planned. Like, do you mean like sat down and said, starting today, we're ready to start having a kid? Or like, if it happens is also considered part of plan?
No, it happens doesn't work. I mean, like, they get off the birth control or something like that.
I think, you know what, that's an economics question nowadays. It's like when you think about the amount of people who live at or below the poverty line in just the United States alone, that influences the decision of a lot of people whether or not they're ready to ever really pull the goalie. You know what I mean? So it's like,
If you can afford the goalie at that point,
yeah, I think it's less than 30% at this point, in my mind.
that planned it.
It's a tough question to like ask and answer because it's just like you can't really tell. It's like one of those things where it's like human biology kind of takes over and you don't really know what the real reason for it is. It's like the argument with, you guys know what parthenogenesis is?
Yes.
You guys ever heard?
Explain the idea quick. I probably heard of it. But...
So, like Jesus's birth is considered parthenogenesis, like asexual like reproduction
Okay.
in mammals. So like the thought is like the reason they can't actually do a real study on parthenogenesis in humans is because they can't tell something about like they can't tell, because it's not like people are going to just stop having sex over like an extended period of time. So it's like they can't tell if the birth is like is actually from like a fertilized egg,
or if it's from parthenogenesis,
or if it's self-fertilizing. So they've never been able to tell.
But how's it self-fertilizing when you need chromosomes from both?
But Jesus didn't, right?
The idea is that
the idea of Jesus didn't.
Well,
so
we're really gonna take that as fact.
But here's the thing: is we have seen parthenogenesis in other mammals. We've studied it in other mammals, so we know it's a thing that can happen in other mammals. We just aren't sure if it's possible in humans.
Wait, what mammal?
You know what? Let me do a
little Googles.
Let's get some. But with asexual reproduction, you're talking about the splitting.
That's basically what I'm thinking about.
A cell. So like if you take genetic cells and they're splitting, you can actually create life from a split cell. You know what I mean? Like that.
So it's like, I'm sorry, it's not in mammals, but mainly in like arthropods and like.
That's fine. Reptiles have been able to do it. Certain ocean species, but mammals, it's always been.
Did Steve just give us fake news with mammals?
Mm-hmm.
My bad, yo.
Damn.
Wow. Here's what it is. Here's what it is. They have done it in rats, but it's been like, it's not naturally occurring. Like they've given shit to the rats to make it happen, like, trigger it. But it's not like it hasn't been natural occurring in mammals yet.
But if what they give them is the genetic coding of another rat, then that is still sexual reproduction. So
exactly,
it has to be an enzyme that forces them.
It's like that's what it is. It's like an enzyme that triggers something that makes it happen. It's not like they're fertilizing the eggs, like themselves.
The whole point is basically back then they ain't injecting nobody with enzymes. So.
Well, I mean, then that means that you're saying that Mary had a side dude, because if you don't believe the story that she was
Mary got piked by an alien.
Hold on, who?
We weren't there. We don't know.
By the Annunaki.
Listen, man,
stay woke.
Anunnaki Sumerian like shit has gotten so far into my head. I've spent the last 2 weeks from work just watching all these videos and reading stuff
about Anunnaki.
Yeah,
I told you that story is interesting.
Well, it's not only interesting.
Well, real quick, why don't you explain what that is?
Yeah, go ahead. That is true for anybody who doesn't know.
My attempt at a Cliff Notes version of it, of course, to fill in some gaps. The idea is that there is a civilization that's more advanced than us, more godly, quote unquote, alien race called the Anunnaki. They come from a planet that's called Nibiru. Nibiru is allegedly the 9th planet in our solar system that rotates around the sun every about 3,026 years, something like that. And Nibiru has an atmosphere, it has resources. But its atmosphere was deteriorating, and when the atmosphere was deteriorating on their planet, they had to look for another planet to colonize for resources to rebuild their atmosphere. The resource that they wanted, you guessed it, gold. Gold has been known that I think the shavings of gold or something like that can be used to repair ozone. Right?
You see how he tried to act like he didn't really have any knowledge about this, but now
I'm telling you, I just watched 15
videos better than I could have.
He has
videos
100%. But to be honest, I could see him doing his research since our last convo and getting very well informed about this.
Listen, so they,
but he don't burn though. He don't burn.
Disclaimer: I don't burn. But so they had to come to Earth. When they came to Earth, this was before Homo erectus. So at the time, it was Homo erectus' time. We're Homo sapien. So it was during the time of the Homo erectus.
We're not going to pause Homo erectus.
We're not.
I left it
It's
alone.
a scientific term. We gotta let it go. So they came here, but when they were looking for their resources, they actually brought their own race that they had enslaved, and they're called the Ijiji. Now, the Ijiji were also a race of people who...
You didn't bring this
I don't know
up.
if I'm going to be able to talk about this, guys, but
I'm telling you, I'm literally watching the video.
Puts glasses on, puts the book open.
Stephen may have some more intellectual points of it. I'm just regurgitating.
You're on it, bro. Awesome.
So the Ijiji were brought down by the Anunnaki down to Earth to actually mine for resources such as gold and other resources that they needed for Nibiru. The Ijiji didn't like the fact that they were enslaved, and of course wanted the same power that the Anunnaki had. So they tried to overthrow the Anunnaki, and when they did, 95% of their population was just eradicated immediately because the Anunnaki were that much superior to the Ijiji. So when you think of Titans, the Nephilim, right, the giants, the Anunnaki were huge. They flew in the sky essentially, right? And the Ijiji were gone. And then the Anunnaki realized, holy crap, we don't have anybody to mine our resources for us anymore. So now they're like, either we do it, it's a lot of work, or we have to find another person to do it. And what they did was the remaining folks, the remaining Anunnaki, so the king, his name was Enki. That Enki was the son of the king. He was the one who ruled here on Earth, the Anunnaki king, and he told his scientists, I want you to create the perfect race to be enslaved and mine for resources. They took the cells of an Anunnaki, and they took the cells of the Homo erectus, they put it together, and allegedly that's how we got Homo sapien, which is us. So we were doing their bidding on Earth, and we were mining their resources, etc. And in turn, they taught us culture, they taught us technology, they taught us how to build. And the reason why I say that part is because they say that this is the reason why there's stuff that's on Earth now that you can't explain, is because the Anunnaki showed human beings at that time advanced technology and science that we still haven't acquired today. Now, I can stop there, or I can go even further down the hole. But
we're going in right now, because this is too similar to so many stories we've heard throughout history of life. No matter what religion, culture you got, it's across the board.
So it's interesting that it hits so many different, you know what I'm saying? Like,
and not to mention, in the essence of humans, don't we follow the same repetitive pattern all the time? Mm-hmm. Don't we, throughout history, have shown people get enslaved because they don't want to do the work, they want somebody else to do the work, and then they mix and mix and mix and mix.
That's because, allegedly, so when, as the human beings started learning from the Anunnaki about civilization, technology, art, they're saying that all of this was taught to us as a civilization, right? So Homo sapien learned all of this from the Anunnaki. But what they didn't give us was the ability to live as long as they could. So these were like infinite beings. They can live for as long as they wanted, pretty much. But humans couldn't. So what they did was, when we would die, they realized they were losing a resource. So they taught us how to procreate. And it sounds similar. This is the idea that Adam and Eve, the moment they ate from the tree, they learned how to procreate. Well, this is why I'm telling you, the reason why this is all interesting is because this is all before all the ancient texts that we know. So all these texts in Sumeria that explain these stories that were found on these tablets essentially predate Egyptian culture, Greek mythology. It predates all of those things. So it's like when you say that the world has all these same things, it's because essentially this was like the first civilization according to Mendeley. So when they gave us the ability to procreate, what did we do? Humans are parasites. I hate to say this because I am one and I love all of us, but we are parasites. We start to procreate. We create so many of us that in Eden, so Eden was the actual place where they lived in Sumeria. Eden was overpopulated. They had so many people there that the Anunnaki said, you're overwhelming us with too many people. not enough resources, and they cast them out of Eden and told them, you must travel the world. And this is how different civilizations began. Cast out of Eden. Sounds familiar. Like this is the story of creation. So this is the biblical story of creation comes from how the Anunnaki created us and then kicked us out of Eden. Now, the Anunnaki knew that Nibiru was coming back, and they feared that just like the Ijiji, Homo sapien would one day want to rule on Nibiru. See, so their fear of us wanting to take their land meant that they had to protect it. And what they did was they got in their spaceships and they flew up, because scientifically, the idea is that Nibiru's rotation is so weird around the sun that it gets really close to the Earth at that 3,000 point mark, and it creates chaos on Earth, right? Because the gravitational pull between itself and the Earth creates massive amount of sea issues, and the big one was the melting of the polar ice caps, right? That we know that created the massive flooding of a bunch of cities in the sea. They've done a whole bunch of scientific tests that show in Antarctica and other places around the world that if you go back to the last big ice age or stone age change, whatever it was, sea level was much lower than it is actually today. And it was because they say that when Nibiru got close enough, it created that. And then when Nibiru got close enough, it created these ridiculous storms, which then led to 40 days of rain. And the Anunnaki were so saddened that their creations would die in that rain that they chose a man who translates to Noah to create a boat, an ark, that the ark would actually be able to hold different animals and different kinds of species to survive this 40-day rain. The Great Flood, the story of Noah in the Bible, also shows up in this they all come from here, and it's really interesting from there.
So also, when you start talking about like other cultures and shit, like other cultures, they all have that similar flood.
That's
story.
what I was gonna ask. Okay.
Like
I believe it's 500 civilizations all have the Great Flood story written.
Right, and
there's truth to that flood then.
Yeah.
And so it's like it's always a very similar kind of story about a chosen person, and like no matter how many days or nights the rain, that shit may vary, but like it's always a dude, it's always a boat, and it's always like one of each animal and like whatever. Like that's always the same. So it's just like I don't know. It's
coincidence?
Well, I think
it could be all from the same story. It's a different people went to different areas and told their own version of their story.
It's pretty much like the phone game.
You have to remember the way telephone goes. Exactly.
Yeah.
The way the telephone works is you play a game. You start off by telling one person, and then you try to go down the line and see where the story ends. It's going to be altered by the time it reaches the last person. So if Eden was in what today is considered Iraq, right? That's Sumeria. Ancient Sumeria is in South.
Wait, guys, I got breakfast coming. I'll be right back. Okay.
Oh, got them 2 eggs and sausages coming. There you go.
He's about to procreate.
He's about to procreate. But the thing was that when they were cast out, you start civilizations in different places. You're going to tell your version of the story, right? And then your children and their progenies and so on will continue to tell the story slightly differently, because who wants to be the victim in any story? Like if you tell, this is where the underdog idea came from, right? Like if I'm the guy who dominates everything, I tell the story, I sound like a hero. If I'm the guy who's constantly losing and I tell the story exactly of me losing, nobody likes that. So they alter.
Call the Mets.
Yeah, you alter it to make it like, oh yeah, and when Goliath swung, David moved left, and boom, left hook to the ribs, and he took him down. So, no, he didn't. But what really happened is Goliath crushed his ass. There was no denying that, but he died trying, right? That's how the story's changed, and it's crazy because the more you like learn about the Anunnaki, you learn about ancient Egypt. The idea that the pyramids were there before the actual ancient Egyptians were there is incredible in itself, right? Like we've been told for how many years that, you know, that people who were enslaved were used to create these magnificent structures, and they existed before there was cultures there. That throws everything that we've learned out of whack, right? Because we're like, oh yeah, you know, we've been told that there was the Israelis who were enslaved. They wanted to go back home, but the Pharisees, you know, forced them to create these megalithic structures. If they were there before there were even Pharisees, then nobody worked on that shit. You know what I mean? Like that. So now, does that mean that the empathy that we showed certain cultures around the world, assuming that they've gone through these hardships that may have not existed? That's why, like, and I know it's a very slippery slope here, so I don't want somebody to misinterpret what I'm saying. Like, even the people who are like, oh, you know, the non-Holocaust believers, right? They're saying that if you try to use the facts and just don't like fully just go sympathy all the way, they have doubts, and their doubts, you know, I'm not saying they're factual at all. I don't agree with them.
Yeah,
disclaim that, please.
I don't agree with that at all. But what they're saying is that also lends itself to looking at their position differently when social, economic, and political issues come up, right? So like the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, do you look at it differently because of what happened in Nazi Germany? Would you think about it differently if we didn't have that information? You'd be like, well, the Palestinians were there, right? Or, you know, so it's very slippery, and I think that's why I mentioned this. I think the story about the Annunaki and like the Sumerian text and all that actually plays a bigger role in the way that history has been presented to us than we think. You know, keeping that Judeo-Christian light on things was always the way that history was written from an Anglo-Saxon perspective. You know, it's always like Jesus is the beginning of time, and Christianity shows this amazing story of how, in, you know, the Old Testament's God versus the New Testament's God, and then the last 2018 years have been built on this New Testament God, right? And it's all really, really interesting stuff. So like I said, lots of wild ways you can learn this stuff and think about it, but...
Yes, Steve's back. Good. So, flaws. If Anunnaki were so advanced in technology, nobody knows of the snip to control population, tying the tubes. Well,
you gotta
have no idea what the.
You gotta think. No, I think you have to think about it this way. They allegedly left the planet to go back to Nibiru. Some people have the crazy belief that they're on the moon and they're watching us right now. I am one of those.
Dark side of the moon.
I'm one of those people who believes in the dark side of the moon. I don't know if the Anunnaki are there, but I know something's there. Or I believe something's there.
It could just be bones. It literally could just be bones, like a grave site, and that could just mean we're not alone.
I was reading that there's people who believe that the moon is a satellite. That was a satellite placed by the Anunnaki to actually keep tabs on us. That's. I was like, that's interesting.
But if they're so powerful, why would they be so afraid of humans, of overthrowing them?
So you know what's interesting? The way you guys are talking about the Anunnaki is exactly the same questions that we ask about God.
AI.
Well, the same ones we ask about God. Like, well, if God is all-knowing, I was reading somewhere, like, if God is all-knowing, how did he not know that, you know, human free will would lead to them doing evil things? And somebody's like, oh, he knew. He just, you know, chose to let it happen. It's like, but if he chose to let that happen,
God was like, fuck it. Let's watch this disaster go on.
I was reading the comment section of YouTube. This shit is wild. Like watching these like true Christian, like the Lord is our savior people go back and forth.
Oh, like the Bible Belt area people?
Yeah, bro.
Because the same questions that you're asking, like, yo, if the Anunnaki were so powerful, why would they let... It's not that they didn't have the power to stop us. It's the belief is that we still... So the word is worship. We've heard that, and worship means to like adore. That's how we've been taught. But really, the direct translation of the word worship in these texts means to work for. So the reason why you don't eliminate us is because we still have a purpose. As long as we have a purpose, you don't eliminate it, right? Like if they always say you never bite the hand that feeds you. So if we're still mining resources, think about it. Even the idea that our economies are based off of gold. Right?
All right, but so what are they getting from us now?
All the gold we have left. Dizzle, how much gold do you have in your house? Not that don't give a value so somebody try to find where you live, but you understand what I'm trying to say? Like, think about
Dizzle is Dominican. There might be a lot there of
50, 60 years ago, people actually, were still owning gold bars. Remember that?
Right.
Red Dead Redemption.
Well, hold on. So, did you guys talk about like the royal bloodlines, though? Have you guys?
I was gonna go there because.
Hold up. Before we get into that, how do we not know the Anunnaki are like fourth dimension beings of us just being from the future, traveling back?
Very possible.
Oh, so that means time exists then?
No, that means interdimensions exist.
Well, interdimensions exist, but also it could be a future version of ourselves that we've evolved to this being, and something happened where the resources are gone.
Be a future
and we came back in time.
It's just a more advanced version of another society.
Right now, but see, that's the issue. Is
the
right
paradox.
Now, future, exactly. Right now is a future version of the you that existed 5 seconds ago. So
no, but I'm talking not me per se. I
like the old version of you better, Rob.
Yo, if this is a buzz version of you, I don't want to see the old one.
Don't bring Drake. Don't let me bring Drake lines into this. All right? Anyway,
don't make me have to bring up old me.
My whole point is, how do we not know it's not our future evolved selves? Maybe we had to leave this planet because we obviously know resources are what they are, and we went to somewhere else. But now those resources ran out. So we're straight out of luck. We're like, let's go back and get our own resources.
That's all I hear.
Pure theory.
And ifs. What is that based on?
What is your based on? Yours is a lot of ifs too, though. That's what I'm saying. You don't know where the Anunnaki came out.
No one has facts about any of this.
First of all, how did they know to come to this planet? Unless they already knew about the resources there. They know because we were them.
They're looking for planets.
It's just like we send out probes.
Yeah.
But it's no different.
You know what's on other planets.
It's no different than us looking for planets right now that have water, oxygen.
But that's what I'm saying. This doesn't happen unless the future version of. I'm just trying to mess with Steve with the time loop shit. This doesn't happen unless the future version of ourselves come back and teach us everything, and the cycle continues.
It actually.
I'm gonna need a stronger argument from Rob.
So what Stephen was talking about.
I'm gonna need a stronger argument from Rob.
Yeah, because you don't believe in time.
What Stephen was talking about was when they left, the Anunnaki still needed to make sure that things worked the way they wanted to on Earth, right?
For a reason, because they're us.
So after the floods.
So we're the Anunnaki?
What?
Technically, we're the simpler versions. We eventually become the Anunnaki.
We're their project. So we're mixed with Anunnaki. But what they did was.
So where the fuck are my powers?
They placed.
It's so hard to be woke. It's so hard to be woke.
They placed kings in different civilizations around the world. So they created these kind of neo gods, right? Like they're so when you look at
gods in training.
Yeah, exactly. So if you look at the history books, they talked about human beings who can live 400, 500, thousands of years. Those were human beings who had better blood cells or genetic makeup of the Anunnaki. They were given.
Just say clean, right? That's the word they usually use, right? Pure.
So they said that there was the first Sumerian king lived 46,000 years, according to these texts. So if you go through that, what they're trying to tell you is that they created a structure of hierarchy on Earth where we would always be submissive to a hierarchical structure. And they also created the idea that, remember, for a long time, people were like, oh, that's gross. Why is it that this king wants to marry his sister or his cousin or whatever? It's keeping the bloodline pure.
From the South.
Well, people in the South. People in the South just wanted to stay retired.
A lot of Red Dead. That's where you got that, bro.
But the idea was keeping the power in the bloodline, and that's why these kings lived for so long and ruled for so long. So, Rob, to your point, it's I think that or Dizzle's question about whether or not, why didn't they just stop us from becoming what we are? It's because we're still being controlled. To this day, we're being watched and controlled. So we're getting closer. There's people who believe.
But all that could be for the benefit of our species and our being that we just don't know yet. We don't know what the future brings, the different variables. Hence,
okay.
why we could be the Anunnaki in an evolved form. Anything that's, what do they say? People used to believe in magic because it's just science that isn't understood.
Yep.
Maybe we reach a technology that we're not understanding. We come back to set everything planned. I'm on some crazy.
But I think
lit right now, so y'all want me.
The thing is that in most cultures and most religions, it's this idea of this benevolent God that has nothing but love for us.
But why?
And so it's scary for people to like think that our creators may not have been the most benevolent, the most, you know what I'm saying, perfect.
Well, didn't the Christian God kill a bunch of people too?
God sucks. Gods kill everybody all the time.
But all of those had reasons behind them. Like, you did what I asked you not to do. You broke this sacred law.
But so,
that's what the pharaohs said before they whipped people too. I told you not to drop that boulder, and
that's what the slave owners said before they whipped people too. You know, like
everything. Remember, in the Bible.
Wait! You just said member?
I said member. Come on.
Remember?
You remember? God made man in his likeness. The idea stems from that. What we've learned in terms of how we are, how we think, all of it comes from God. Right? God has this knowledge.
But that even kind of circles back to the Anunnaki thing too, because if God made us in his likeness, and the Anunnaki made human beings out of
their genetic material
makeup, like that.
Yeah.
It's because we are the Anunnaki. You're not seeing it. Jesus Christ, it's so hard to be.
We can't be the Anunnaki.
Why?
Because
a future, like I'm talking like thousands of years down the line, something's gonna happen.
You ain't no future person, man.
Trust me, man. I should be like the Flash. I'll time travel and fucking figure this shit out for you.
So Rob is talking about a type 6 civilization, right? On the Kardashians.
Yes, go ahead. Yes.
A civilization who's reached the point that they can manipulate time and space, and therefore they can go back and create ripples in time to go. But I think all of that is
all they'd have to do is realize that there is no such thing as time, and then
how's there no such thing?
If that existed, but there is don't listen to that crazy guy right there. Just eat your food.
What if the ripple in time and reality is just interdimensional travel, right? Like, what if there is another actual dimension right now where we're having?
It could be. That's very possible.
So it's not time travel. Maybe this conversation is going to happen 10,000 years from now in another dimension. You know what I mean? Like that. Mm-hmm. That's my thinking of like. I don't think it's one timeline that you can just jump back and forth through, because I think it's a continuously evolving universe. There literally could have been this conversation 10,000 years ago, and there could have literally be one 10,000 years from now in a different part of the dimension, another part of the universe.
Well,
time flows though. Once you start changing things,
I gotta get some drink. I'll be back.
Time. Yeah, you don't want part of this combo. You know it. Time flows. Time flows. So the second you go back and do something, you're changing it. So that's not the same timeline, same dimension, same whatever we're talking about. I'm just stating the fact that, like you said, they made us in their likeness, right? Isn't it weird that their likeness seems to be what we are, and they're not what we become? You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, I was reading. I decided to go back and listen to the story of Genesis and creation and the Bible again, just for fun, because I was like, now that I've listened to this Anunnaki stuff, let me just see the similarity, right? And when God created Adam, he told him there was 2 trees. Right? There's the tree of life and the tree of knowledge. He could eat from any tree in the garden, including the tree of life. He just could not eat from the tree of knowledge. Right? That was what he was told. Now, also in the Sumerian text, they talk about a guy named Adamu being cast out of Eden. Adam That's what it translates to. But anyway, remember, the serpent tempts Eve. Eve bites the apple, feeds it to Adam. Now they both done the number one sin against God, which was eat from the tree of knowledge. And I started listening to the video, and I start reading the text.
The tree of the knowledge of good and evil.
Yes, the tree of knowledge is good and evil.
Who said that? Was that the Annunaki?
Well, was that the Anunnaki? So
it's the Negro Naki.
And I sent the text to Stephen last night because it just like boggled my mind that it says, and then the Lord God said, they can no longer eat from the tree of life, because now that they've eaten from the tree of knowledge and know good and evil, they are like us. So the Lord God, the huge God in the celestial being, the omnipotent being, said us. And I was like, why would he say us in the Bible? Like, isn't there one God? And I thought maybe he meant a reference to the angels in the heavens. But I'm like, when he says us, it feels like a translation from a godly race. You know what I mean? Like that it's, we want to believe, maybe there is this one like alpha existence, because even before that, you just start going into this, but what existed before that? Like that's the biggest challenge with Christianity and the
all religions.
Yeah,
what was before us? Curiosity.
True God is like, what was there before that? You know what I mean? Like
chaos. Like
so God had to come from somewhere, because that's how our minds work.
Who created God?
Exactly. And this is why I kind of lean towards Stephen's point about time not existing, because we struggle with what happens before eternity. You understand? Like eternity is eternity. So for us, we struggle with
can't comprehend it.
There's no end. So when did eternity begin? It didn't begin. It just always existed.
I comprehend that fine though. That's perfectly fine. That means time still exists though, because there's just because there's time doesn't mean there has to be a beginning or an end. It's just something that flows.
What it means is that in order for human beings to better understand and to better understand like the world that we live in, time is a tool that we created to help us.
A man-made construct that you were saying, yes.
In the universe, there's no such concept or thing of time. It's eternity. And so it's just like, if every day is a sunny day, what's a sunny day?
But isn't eternity a time?
That just is.
No.
Isn't eternity a time adjective? Like, you know what I'm trying to say? Eternity still relates.
I definitely hear what you're saying. But like I said, it's a man-made thing that we use to. That's why it's not perfect. That's why we have to go back and forth, like, and change the hours every fucking,
No, you're thinking time. Shit. You're thinking time in regards to the man-made construct that we did of AM, PM, 12, noon, all that stuff. By the way,
all of that was created in Sumerian. The first calendars, minutes.
The numbers, yes.
All of that.
Yeah, exactly. So time, I'm thinking time in regards to you as a baby, man evolves. There's time that passes through that for evolution to occur. You can't deny things. Change requires time.
No, change doesn't require time. Change is infinite. It's going to keep happening. That's the thing.
But that's the other thing.
We create cycles.
Infinite.
We create cycles.
Okay.
That's what Stephen was saying about cycles. Cycles versus time are very different. Cycles are patterns that we understand. And although I still don't believe cycles exist either, but that's I
don't believe in shit.
Because I think that if eternity is infinite change, eventually those patterns will change too. So therefore the cycles that we understand will eventually become different cycles or part of larger cycles that we still don't understand. So all of it, time, cycles, patterns, those are human concepts to try to understand this infinite universe with eternity around us that we can't comprehend because we have a limited amount of time on this planet.
Now, cycles and patterns, I do believe still exist, even though they change. If you look at light is a wave, sound is a wave. Like, those are all cycles. Like, they repeat in a certain frequency.
Put your knife down.
And depending on the frequency, that's what makes
threatened.
With a plastic knife.
Like threatening us like this time is a wave.
You're gonna learn today.
Hey, teach these devils.
That's
devils, son.
That's a weapon in Alcatraz, bro.
Where's my money?
And this is metal,
anyway.
Plastic.
Oh, sorry.
But no,
black steel.
The waves can change, the patterns can change,
but time doesn't change because there's no time.
There is no time.
There is time.
Dizzle's a believer. That's it.
Oh my God, you guys are so.
You're down to yourself. That's it.
So when we figure out time travel, what are you gonna say that time doesn't exist?
Impossible.
Because it's gonna happen.
I'll tell
it's
you
gonna happen.
Interdimensional travel. Because
you can go forward. We've proven this. You can go forward in time.
Let me ask you a serious question. Let me ask you a very serious question.
I know what Ali's saying with his interdimensional travel, but go ahead, Ali.
I'm gonna ask you a very serious question. Let's assume that in our lifetime, somebody magically...
It won't be in our lifetime, but go ahead.
Let's just assume. Somebody magically figures it out quick enough how to create a wormhole that we can travel back to a time before now.
Well, there is a wormhole that we can do that. We just can't.
It's a wormhole that allows us to transfer between not dimensions, between.
It's still time. It's still time, interdimension, whatever you want. It's a wormhole, but regardless, our bodies cannot take it. So go ahead.
Now, the way it works is assuming time is still moving the way that we understand it here, right? If you go through a wormhole, you found a quicker way to move to another place. By the time you get there, the amount of time that has passed where you are means that you have, in essence, time travel. That's the way it's currently, like, the concept of how time travel works now is you're moving so much faster than something else is that you've gotten to a point faster than they have. So it's been a lot longer. Relativity, exactly. Mm-hmm. Now, let's just say that you do have, like, the Flash idea of what time travel is.
Or whatever it is.
The Flash breaks the speed barrier, sound barrier, light barrier, boom, ends up back in another time. Let's say you, Rob, meet you from 10 years ago, and you tell him something about what's going to happen 10 years later.
Changes everything.
Do you think you still exist?
Do I exist? Like the version of me? The version of me?
You're a version of time 10 years later.
That's like ripple of time variations. I could exist. I could be dead.
My point
is
I could be dead. Time travel would never exist then, because if you change one thing in the past, you've changed the
changes everything. But that doesn't necessarily. But that's what I agree with you with your interdimensional things, because basically, in essence, that version of you is a different dimension.
Right,
you went back and changed different tie line.
Mad Star Trekkies gonna be like hating all this in the comments below. Please,
please comment and put your 2 cents on this.
You guys don't understand time travel.
Listen,
I don't understand anything y'all were just talking about.
It's like somebody just blew a load somewhere. Like,
they broke their screen. Shut up.
It kind of touches on a lot of the stuff that's happened in the year 2018. And I know this year, so wrapping up here, we got a couple days left.
Ali's been dying to segue after that time walk. That time talk.
We're wrapping up the year here in a couple of days, and of course 2019 is only 3 days away at this point. So I'd love to go around the horn here with you guys and hear what are like the craziest things that you thought happened in 2018, good and bad, good and or bad. So I think it'd be fun to just throw somebody.
What was crazy?
Go ahead, Steve.
There's a lot of shit if you think about it.
I would say maybe not the craziest, but Khabib going out the octagon to fight Dylan Dennis in the crowd. I think that ranks up there. That
was cool.
Shit was crazy.
I think even that whole like using
everything
fight like that fight crossed a lot of lines that it might set a precedent for the way that people want to see mega fights publicized now going forward.
Yeah, right. But it worked because I was so hyped for that fight.
Yeah, I mean the pay-per-view sales showed that it's like everybody wanted to see blood. You know what I mean? Like, and then when the fight was over and now it's spilled out, there was this level of uncomfort that it actually turned into what people thought it was going to turn into. You know what I mean?
It will never stop. It's been going on since the Roman times, gladiators. It's gonna go on.
You're highlighting a bigger issue, which is that there's people who get paid tons of money to watch this stuff happen, and the people who are in that Coliseum don't get paid as much, but they're still seen as the villains in all of this, right? And I think that's kind of one of the things that I would love to see in 2019 is to see where the fight game goes in terms of the fighters taking control of certain things, and like, you know, how they restructure contracts and not letting there be these huge monopolies on, like, okay, well, you're gonna fight for
the fight game, you're talking about boxing, right?
I'm talking about boxing, MMA, everything.
Well, MMA is still contractually locked up. Boxing's HBO is gone, so HBO, there's a big change going on in the boxing game in regards to contracts and stuff like that.
Well, even look at the Reebok sponsorship with UFC, right? Like
that
took millions of dollars out of some people's pockets, and it's like they continue to show you that, like, you are replaceable. You're a Coliseum fighter, right? It's like if a lion eats you up, there's going to be 10 more people lined up to get eaten up by the lion. I would love to see that change, because it's like selling the fights as, look at these savages going after each other, and then when they do exactly what people were hoping they'd do, they get nothing for it afterwards. You know what I mean? Unless you're like a mega star. You know?
I think that's going to be too hard with the UFC, because if you want to be considered the best, you got to fight UFC.
It's like, so hard. It's true, but it's so hard.
Some nice fighters, but if you want to be considered, you know, the next Conor, the next John Jones, the next whoever, you got to be in the UFC. And you just got to play by their rules.
But that's like WWE, right? It's no different. It's like people think.
Well, I mean, it's a little different because with WWE, it's not real. So
I mean, they're trying to.
Bucks, you got
remember they have that league that's about to start by the wrestlers. Who owns it? Like Cody Rhodes, a bunch of wrestlers own it.
All Elite Wrestling.
And keep in mind, when people talk about the best wrestlers in the world, most WWE wrestlers don't get mentioned.
Yeah, but when you think about who's going to be on Good Morning America tomorrow, getting $100,000 check for it.
But you know what's funny? If you take WWE wrestlers and put it on those like Elite or Ring of Honor, they're going to be huge sellouts. Like you take Randy Orton off WWE and put it in Ring of Honor, it's going to sell like crazy.
Anyway, look at Neville, right? Neville went back and now he's Pat, whatever his name is. The dude is wanted everywhere, right? And it's because there's a mainstream notoriety that comes with these names, and that's what I'm saying. Like, it's not that you can't be the best in the world or even make a decent living. It's like, if you want to be one of the best fighters in the world, you have to be in UFC because there's a notoriety that comes with it. You'll end up being in a movie with The Rock, 2 years from now if you're in UFC. If you're the WEC champion, or I don't even think it exists, whatever it is.
UFC bought them out years ago.
If you're like the World Series of Fighting heavyweight champion, I'm pretty sure you're not going to be in a movie with The Rock 4 years from now.
You'll be in Marine 7.
Hey, yo, most people know who you are.
Yeah, so I think that's the big deal. So I do think that fight sets a precedent where it's like, beyond just how crazy that fight was, it talks to me a lot more about this shift of power, whether it's, LeBron mentioning the NFL ownerships and the way they treat their players, and, the MLB players feeling like now they're taking longer to sign with teams because the teams might be trying to play a game of cat and mouse to take away some of the power that we've all seen MLB players hold with contracts. So I think there's an interesting place in 2018 where sports has shown like that power shift of who runs things versus who doesn't.
Steve, what's his 2018 shop or whatever?
Like the craziest thing?
Yeah.
This year? When you said that, the first thing that came in my head, and this is just probably me, this is how weird my mind is the first thing that came in my head as like the craziest thing of this year was Tyrese beefing with The Rock. Like, that was wild as shit.
Mad random.
Like, that shit was just so fucking hilarious to me, bro.
He was crying on that post too, right?
dude
And
stole
we
me.
all forgot about it. Like, how, like, that shit is, like, so crazy. Like, and nobody talks about it anymore. And that shit was not even, like, more than 6 months ago.
So, for me, real fast, I think that the craziest thing out of 2018, both good and bad, depending on how you want to look at it, is definitely if the Chinese did create the first genetically modified twins in a lab. I think that's what was that bark?
Somebody sharded.
That's the Chinese interfering with this conversation. I'm gonna leave it right there.
Yo, Ali, you need to let us know your location at all times because the Chinese just heard that.
Put on the Sprint family locator with y'all. I'm gonna have to see where I'm at. But also, I mean, it's relatively, I think it's propaganda news, but you got to take it somewhat seriously. The idea that the Russians have created a nuclear weapon that can have evasive maneuvers against American, British, French defense systems is actually pretty interesting in itself, right? It's like, I think it's more, Cold War propaganda essentially at this point, but at the same time, that's pretty crazy in itself, like the idea that they're advancing nuclear weapons to that state, it's a threat against humanity, right? It's not even scientific progress that helps us in any format. It's really just a threat, and I think that's crazy, and crazy in a bad way.
I mean, 2018 was full of a lot of BS, bro.
Yep.
A lot of bullshit has happened, like you guys have all said. Number one, not number one, but thing that comes off the top of my head is fuck Boston winning the title. So just
worst thing that happened
where we're at.
That was my 2019 right there.
So just, I would say America as a society has been kind of crazy this last year. If you go everything from the Me Too movement, Time's Up, more Afro-American culture, getting more in touch with the African roots in regards to all these Black enterprises popping up, media-wise stepping up, more acknowledgement, yet still more racial divide in this country because of who is our leader, even though our leader will always say that this happened with Barack. But I don't remember it being this brazen, this crazy when Barack was in power. And just look how the media and how society views the media has become, like the whole Brett Kavanaugh trials. That was just a witch hunt on both sides, because people were coming at her, coming at him, and nobody cared about the facts. They just cared about the perception of what everything was coming out to be. And that, as a society, we need to change. And we need to get back to things that are just factual instead of things that are just fake news and more clickbait and whatever.
Yeah. It's like everything's to the extreme now. You have to be like, you can't be like right in the middle anymore. You have to be one extreme.
Choose a side. What you hear a lot. How many times do you hear that?
And I can't even lie. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I've participated in that whole shit. Like, the whole cancel culture and all that shit. Like, but it's just, I think there's a balance, right? Like, there's a balance you have to get to where you're like, okay, what are the facts? You know, what's really happening?
Major key alert.
How is that really gonna affect, you know what I'm saying, like my day to day? You know what I'm saying? Like, I was thinking about like all of the shit that happened with the H&M, all those little, and like I really feel like these motherfuckers, like, it's like some genius marketing motherfucker that's in the background that was like, yo, you can boost your revenue by doing it.
Because it's true, because it's more perception on more views on that.
And so it's just like, yo, if Twitter can have that much power over the way we think, like as a collective, like as a society, like, yo, that's very dangerous. Like, it's just, that shit is so dangerous. It's like we're that easily manipulated.
But that's exactly. But seriously, wasn't Twitter dying before this guy, Donnie, kind of kept him alive, held him afloat for a little bit with his little tweets constantly?
So
Twitter was slowly dying, and now it's kind of stabilized a little.
Yeah, exactly.
So all of this is perfect information to segue to 2019. 2019 is right around the corner. I would love to hear from you guys. Like, what's one thing? Doesn't matter what scope or range you'd like to see happen. It could be as utopian or imaginative as you want, or as factual or simplistic as you want it to be, and of course something personal for yourself. I think the viewers would like to know a little bit something about what we'd like to work on in 2019. So I'll open it.
You're very balanced, Ali. Where can I find all these details of how to be as balanced as you?
That's actually my 2019 desire, to become more balanced. So we'll talk about that for sure. But who wants to kick us off there with what they'd like to see 2019?
Personally or
World Series.
You'd like to see the Yankees win the World Series?
Oh, yo, hold on. What's up
shut
with
the hell up? Like, you ain't had enough.
What's
All
up
right,
with
fine.
these,
A Cowboy Super Bowl next
Oh
month.
my God, that's worse. I'd rather Yankees World
What's
Series.
what's up with this London series situation? Are we getting tickets, or what's happening?
No.
Y'all getting tickets? I ain't going.
The London series, so I'm gonna say it right here. Very exploitive approach in terms of the cost of the tickets. They're putting people in the top of the stadium for like 60 pounds or something like that, which translates to like $75. You know what it's like to spend $700, $800 plus round trip on a ticket to fly to London, get your hotel, and then pay $80 to sit in the top of an Olympic-sized stadium? I'll pass. But I feel it's unfortunate because they did that to the local fans too. If you want to expand baseball in London, like, wouldn't you make those tickets really inexpensive so you can get more people in there and give it even a soccer stadium vibe? But that I think I'll be watching that series from home. Although I'd still love to go to London though. So I think so. I'll kick us off for sure. For me, there's two things I'd love to see, both from a global scale and a personal scale. So from a global scale, I think the guy who created the internet was recently quoted in an article as saying that it was one of the biggest mistakes he ever made in his life was creating the World Wide Web. And, there's a lot of people who agree with that sentiment because they feel like we're a society who wasn't ready for the amount of information that we have available to us at any given moment. And I think that we've misused it completely, right? So my hope is that wherever you are, if you're watching this, if you're listening to this somewhere, or you have a friend who talked to you about something, research. You have the internet. The internet is at your disposal. Leverage it for the acquisition of knowledge. Forget bullying. Forget, trying to be part of the masses and canceling things, or just going on Twitter to start wars with people, or Facebook sparring, whatever you want to call it. The internet is there to find information. Improve yourself. Learn something different. Challenge yourself to learn something that you said, if I had more time, I'd do it. But guess what? You're always on your phone anyway. It's right there. take that, run with it. And then for me personally, I think we talked about it when Stephen said that word balance, right? I think I always look for consistency in myself as a person, and I would love that. That's my New Year's resolution for 2019, to find more consistency in myself. I think we all have.
Diddy?
What was that?
Diddy just said that too on social media, so it's funny that he said that.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. No, but for me, it's like we all have these crazy swings, right? Like Stephen was saying, somebody puts out a post and we all just like, no, that's crazy. We all got these opinions. But think about January 1st. All of us are going to be like, yo, I got to get to the gym. And for the first 15 days of the year, you're hitting the gym so hard that it's like you're posting pictures like, yo, I'm going crazy hard. Then by the time the end of January is done, you've only been back once, and then it's June and you haven't gone again. And then it's November and you're like, yo, I got to pick it up. It's a lack of consistency. And I think and I use the gym because it's the easiest example with New Year's, but it's a lot of things. Whether it's educating yourself, whether it's being a better person to your family or a better friends to your friends. Like, we have this energy and we need to find how to balance it, right? Being too unkeeled on a balance means you're not doing any one thing really well. You're doing it either really well for a short period of time or really poorly for a short period of time, a long period of time. So, but that's what I'd love to see in 2019. What about you guys?
I kind of like where you were going with yours.
You gonna steal it?
I just feel
You
like
get that?
what happened?
Go ahead, continue.
Mm-hmm. All right. No, I just want to see a little more growth. You know what I'm saying? Just from everybody in situations, like the ability to kind of look internally, reflect honestly on like your situations, what you're doing, and like using that as a catalyst to like improve yourself. Like I would like to see that in like a broader, a broader sense of, from people that I know, people that I just see, and I just like to see that energy. And that's really it, man. Like I just feel like 2019 should just be about growth and being better to other people, being better to yourself, like just growth.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same. I feel like 2018 was more about, this person said something I don't like, so I'm going to cancel them. I'm going to avoid them. They can't do this, they can't do that. So I think in the upcoming year, it should be more about, just because they believe something I don't believe in, say something I don't like, it's not just let me put them to the side and never pay attention to them. I think it should be like, why does this person feel this way? Can I change their mind? Can they change my mind? And kind of get close as a society, because now we're just like, oh, this guy says this, nah, I can't fuck with him anymore. He's not, he's not who I thought he was. So it's like, everyone feels like everyone has to agree with you on every single opinion you have. And
right.
We're all different. Everyone's going to have different opinions about any little topic. So it's more like realizing that, people are going to feel differently. That doesn't make them a bad person. Might not make them a good person either, but kind of just listen, grow, and teach each other. And for my resolution, probably finally get my driver's license.
Damn, bro. Oh my God. Jesus Christ.
Not serious about that, are you?
Oh man.
I have it. I never got it.
What? Not even since the move?
Nah.
Because you're not in the city no more.
Nah. Well, I mean, been here for a year.
LIRR is expensive too.
Nah, I take the bus.
Damn.
Wow.
Yeah, it's only like an hour to the.
Yeah, I'm gonna hold you.
I mean, I know how to drive.
You got
know how to
that
drive.
license by February 15th. I'm gonna hold you to that. You gotta take that.
I still gotta take the 5
We're gonna ask Dizzle for rides. Go pick up Ali in Houston.
Yeah, right. I'm like, damn. What car do I want to get? What should I drive? Probably get some hoopty, but
yeah,
actually, I like the Highlander.
You got them Bronx dreams, worrying about the car before the driver's license.
I mean, I first started learning maybe summer how to drive.
Most people get the car before the house, but nothing wrong with that.
Shit happens. But now I'm good. Drive to the city, drive the highways.
Shit, I wish I lived in a place where I didn't have to have a car anymore.
Yeah, man, I never needed a car, really. I was in the
when I moved to New York, I sold my car. I didn't use it.
Public
trains suck, bro.
Public transit is cool from a big metropolis standpoint, but you gotta think about it's just a cesspool of like dangerous shit waiting to happen.
But
I mean, like,
I get that. I
used to work 2 train stops from my job. I used to live 2 train stops from my job. That shit ain't make me want to get a.
But also remember, like, I was a single dude. Like, I had no kids. Like, it was like that worked for me. Like, that made sense for me. Yeah. Like with the kid coming, like that's like I never wanted to be that dude. I always was like, don't be that dude that's carrying a stroller up a you know what I'm saying, up a train platform, son. Like, I don't ever want that.
Yep.
So
no disrespect to the dudes who do that today.
And no disrespect.
You know what I mean? I just never wanted to be that one.
Yeah, I just never wanted to be that dude.
Rob, what about you?
Now I got the
2019.
Real quick, I got the crib and I got parking, so now it makes sense.
Insurance will be lower too because of that.
Oh,
Multi-lines.
So basically, just listening from you guys, it seems 2018 has pretty much done the same thing to all of us, where we've all learned the same type of lessons. In essence, it's pretty much consistency and balance is really key on a personal level. I want to be more balanced in my life. I want to try to get the family in a better position than we were in the year before, which you want to do every year in your life. In regards to society and just America as a whole, I love the fact that we're more empathetic to a lot of things, cultures, causes and stuff like that, but we need to bring our sensitivity levels down because everyone's beyond sensitive over some dumb shit that would never have pissed us off or bothered us back in the day. Now, don't get it twisted. A lot of things are actually needed in order for us to be more sensitive. We needed to be more sensitive on certain topics, race topics, the Me Too movement, the way we treated women. Yeah, but now it's almost a witch hunt with the Me Too movement. A lot of times, it's almost like the balance of power has gone too much to the other side. It's got to be a balance.
Yeah, like I think the extremeness of everything. Like
exactly,
we shouldn't just.
Which comes back to balance.
Yeah, like we should have a methodology for figuring out like this. We have this piece of news now. Let's figure out the facts and let's get to the bottom of it, and then let's like really be honest and figure out an honest way to punish this person.
Our sensitivity levels have messed up everything because we jump to fake facts instead of looking for the facts because we just go reactionary.
But you know what too?
It's like you have to understand is if you've been like if you've been like historically like just shat on, like people who are like you are historically shat on and shat on and shat on and shat on, and you see this of like that, it's just a natural reaction. I just so like I get it, but it's just one of those things that's like, okay, we need to like start getting to that point where it's like, okay, let's relax, let's
take a breath.
And you know what they're doing now too is they're going back like 10, 15, 20 years ago to stuff you said back then and coming up like, yo, can you believe he said this 15 years ago? But 15 years ago, social norms were completely different than they are today.
People are completely different.
Right. So what was acceptable back then?
I just don't want it to
not be acceptable today.
Can we all agree that like the early 2000s was like maybe the worst time in history, possibly?
I would say
in regards to
91 to 2005,
like almost everything, like the music from like 2000, from like 2000, like 2010. Like even like I feel it's like the worst era in hip hop. It was like a horrible time, like in politics. It was just
wow. That was a crazy episode. We were talking about a lot there. Hopefully you guys enjoyed our analysis of 2018 and agree with us on some of the stuff that we'd like to see in 2019. Regardless, we still want to hear from you down in the comments below. Tell us what you thought was the craziest thing in 2018, or even what you'd like to see happen in 2019, or even if you'd like to see me let this grow a little bit. I'm saying I've been thinking about it, but no, I'm just kidding. Even though they have men weave now, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, you could do the Hulk Hogan.
I'll just let have the reverse mullet going on for 2019.
And always wear a bandana so no one could tell.
Bang. Hulk Hogan style. But you know what, guys? I do want to say this. It's the last episode of 2018. We're hoping to bring you guys a lot more consistent schedule in 2019. Some staying up to...
How many episodes we've had? What, like 10?
Episode number 10. And of course,
that's not a bad season. 10.
Yeah, we have extra fresh cuts out there as well. So if you don't know where that is, that's going to be somewhere on this page right there. Somewhere you can click on it and check it out. But we definitely want to come to you guys with more consistent episodes. But I am super appreciative of these three gentlemen and anyone else, from our boy Stevie P, our boy Los, who joined us in the first episode. I'm really appreciative of the fact that you guys have been up for this platform to debate these topics, talk about it, put your thoughts and opinions out there for the world to hear, and hopefully challenge other folks to think about things a little bit differently too. So I thank you guys for that. As always, I'm your boy, A. Hafa Ali from the Bronx, still living in Houston, but you know what? It never dies, y'all. It never dies. In 2019, it's still fuck Boston. So, my boy, Stephan, out west.
Black Stephan, Long Beach. I'm high.
All the time.
Really?
My boy Dizzle, repping that LES gang all day.
Fuck Boston. You know the deal.
Oh, and fuck Boston, definitely.
Huh? Boy Merc Rob from Queens all day.
I am not high right now, but my last time exists. We are the Annunaki, and fuck Boston.
And fuck Boston. Thank you guys for watching. Hit subscribe, hit the like button, comment below, and have a happy 2019. Happy New Year, y'all. Salute.
Deuce.
Peace.